Running on a plan to save America, and she's running on a campaign of demoralization and really a campaign of destruction. But really, perhaps more than anything else, it's a campaign of hate. And on issue after issue, she broke it, and I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to fix it very fast.
Oh, there you have it. Joining me now, the great Laura Ingraham, host of the Ingraham Angle on Fox News. Laura, you're wonderful to come on. We appreciate it. You know what I wanted to add to what he said? He said, you can't lead America if you hate America. And that's got to be part of it, too. I don't know if she hates America. All I know is it seems like she's an incurable pessimist who's really just all she wants to do is run a hate campaign against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, on the other hand, he's an optimist, and he wants to change the country back and pick up where he left off. How do you see it, Laura Ingraham?
Well, I mean, I think the left that has sadly co-opted the Democrat Party, Larry, it's a much different party, of course, than it was in the 80s when I came into politics, the 90s, the 2000s even. This is a far more radical group of people. And I believe, without a doubt, Trump is right about that. The left, of which she is a member, despises, most of America that supports Trump. They think they're racist, systemically racist. They think they're sexist. They think they're misogynist. There's an ad out there where women should beware of telling their boyfriends if they voted for Harris, because I guess we're all supposed to believe that men are going to beat up their girlfriends if they vote for Harris. It's the most cynical, negative thing out there. I mean, they're triggered by too much flag flying, Larry. So I think Trump is right. When you call the country repeatedly systemically racist, as Kamala Harris has done, and Joe Biden for that matter, well, what does actually that mean? Well, if it's systemically racist, it's rotten to the core. It's awful, rotten, and racist, and it has to be undone and remade by new people and new ideas. And I think from Obama to today, from the bitter clingers to the deplorables to the first time I'm proud to be an American to this, it's kind of a logical continuum. And I think people are kind of onto it. They feel it. And that's why they're returning so much support and love, frankly, to Trump, because his determination and defiance, it's an attractive quality for voters today.
That's it. Laura, I don't know if you were at Madison Square Garden or not. I'm sure if you weren't, you saw it.
I was.
All right.
I was.
Even better. So I'm just saying, in a sense, that's what Robert Kennedy Jr. was saying. That's what Tulsi Gabbard was saying. This is not the Democratic Party that we used to know. These people are far-left people. They have crazy ideas about economics and the culture. I don't know which is worse. Maybe the culture is more important nowadays. But that's basically what they are saying. And I think it's refreshing to see, Trump reach across the aisle and build this new coalition.
I mean, it's an amazing thing. And Sunday night, it was... I sat back and I was just watching this, RFK Jr., Gabbard, all these new people, Vivek Ramaswamy, who maybe weren't too keen on Trump and some of his ideas, but they see what's happening to the country as it's run into the ground by the other side, the other political party. And they're just pragmatists. I think most of this, people, whether it's populism or America First conservatism, whatever you want to call it, it's kind of like we have this much money, we have this much debt, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep funding all these wars overseas. We're running out of money, running out of time. We got to fix it. It's kind of common sense. And I think that's, again, what's catching a lot of people's attention. The health issue with Robert F. Kennedy, obviously very attractive to young people as well, very wary of big pharma and a lot of chemicals in our food. So some interesting little subgroups all coming together, I think, in a very hopeful message and a very hopeful way.
One thing that's so interesting, too, I've talked a little bit about this new team behind him. We mentioned Robert Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard. You've got people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy who basically want to, root and branch, rip out, to just take out the Washington scandals, take out all these agencies, change the whole thing. Not just around the edges, not just with a couple of new people, but just change the whole bloody thing. In fact, get rid of as much as you can get rid of. So my thought, Laura, is these are people, take Musk, take Vivek, who will really push Mr. Trump, if he wins, to make good on all those promises. These are new people. These are fresh troops. Some of whom who thought Elon Musk was going to join the Trump campaign? As you said, Vivek wasn't really for Trump in the beginning. Anyway, my point is they're going to push him to do what he's promising to do, which is kind of cool.
And I think one thing we should note, and Larry, you and I have been around and around on this, and we've seen it happen before. People come into Washington with the greatest of intentions. I'm going to transform this. I'm going to get rid of this department. And then all of a sudden they run into the brick wall known as Congress.
Yeah.
And so if they don't win the House of Representatives, if they still have this stalwart group on the Republican side in the Senate who just they kind of like the status quo in a lot of ways. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want cuts of government kind of make them uncomfortable. Then they're going to have to really use leverage. And I hope it's the leverage of what these polls are showing today. A new series of polls are out showing that he's winning the popular vote, which is stunning. They got to go in there full steam ahead and get as much done as quickly as possible before they try to write him off as essentially a lame duck. Because a lot of people in Washington do not want Trump to succeed if he ends up winning. And they are going to have to fight their way through that very smartly. No wasting 100 days. Can't do that. Don't have any time. Got to go right to the heart of the problem.
You're totally right. And he would be 4 years, lame duck, perhaps. But you know what? That's why you need hard drivers. I mean, I don't know what I think the world of Vivek Ramaswamy. He comes on the show a lot. We have these
really smart.
Yes, we have these great conversations about what needs to be done and so forth. I'm watching Elon from a distance. I like what I hear, but I love what Vivek is doing back and forth. And there's other people. You know, in a sense, Laura, look at the old crowd's going to back Trump and so forth. I'm not going to name any names, but the old crowd's going to back Trump.
Yeah,
all right.
We know who they are.
But he's got a new group. He's got like kind of a new team, Laura. And I find that very refreshing. And maybe, and to your point, politically, that may be very important. I'll give you the last word.
I think, Larry, look, we've tried the old way. We offshored millions of jobs. We had a very open border. We had very lax immigration even before this nightmare of the last 3.5 years. And it drove a lot of discontent. And right now, it's driving cartels, human trafficking, drugs, and economic, frankly, a downward pressure on our economy. I heard your other conversation. So this is all going to change if they play their cards right, have the right team together, and it doesn't turn into a lot of people leaking on each other or backbiting or trying to undermine. I mean, I've seen this people come and go in Washington and White Houses, and I worked in the White House many years ago, and you got to have everyone on the same side. So if he puts together that team, we could see real transformation. But look out for the potholes and the landmines in front of you on Capitol Hill.
You got it. So good. Laura Ingraham, the great Laura Ingraham, thank you for coming on. Love having you.
Larry, great to see you, as always. See you at 7 o'clock.